welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 7th. We will start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Randy's going to lead us in that. And everybody, if you could mute except for Randy.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
And for the record, Carranza and McIntyre are both out with excused absences, and Vice Chairperson Keene will be late. So currently we have 4 present.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Okay. Annette?
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. We'll move into the public comment portion of the meeting, which is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter that is not on the agenda over which the commission has jurisdictions. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record before making your presentation. The commission may take action to direct the staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to make any public comments on anything not related to something that's on the agenda currently? If you are on the phone, you can press *9. Otherwise, if you are on Zoom, you can just raise your hand. Okay, oh, there is one with a raised hand for a phone number.
The person with the number ending in 4025, you do have permission to speak.
Can you hear us? They are unmuted and their hands up.
Are 6 to speak, perhaps?
Caller with the 369-4025. You're live. Do you have a comment? Oh, it doesn't look like that's that they are available. Well, maybe we can come back to that later. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar, please?
I'll move.
Jason, in a second.
I will second.
Dennis, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thought we were going to get stuck there.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Well, we're going to go ahead and move into our public hearings for each of the following items. The public will be given the opportunity to speak. After a staff report, the chair will open the public hearing and invite the applicant or applicant's representative to make any comments. Members of the public will be invited to provide testimony to the commission following the applicant. Speakers should state their name for the record and can address the commission for 3 minutes. After all the public comments have been received, the public hearing will be closed and the commission will discuss the item and take appropriate actions. Before we start, we're going to ask for any ex parte on these items. We'll start with Jason.
None.
Randy,
None.
Dennis,
No ex parte.
and I do not have any either. So we'll move on to item number 1, the amendment to existing building 10205 El Camino Real. And who's giving this presentation? I'll turn it over to staff.
Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, this is for the expansion for the Macadero Apartments at 10205 El Camino Real. Here we have the zoning map. The property is in the residential multifamily 24 or high density residential multifamily zoning district. The property itself is about 1.16 acres, and to the west side along El Camino is the low density multifamily or RMF 10. And then to the south is the public zone. That's actually the state hospital's property, is the blue property you see there. Here's an aerial photo of the site. We'll talk about what's existing in a little bit. Oops, but you can see that there are 4 existing residential buildings, and then there's 1 community building on that site. So the project, the property has 4 2-story multifamily buildings for a total of 19 units on the property. It also includes an outdoor area as well as a community building that's almost 1,400 square feet. The units are not deed restricted, but they're rented at a low income level. Some background about the project is also that this was presented to the design review committee in February of this year. But the design review committee primarily discussed the parking constraints on site, as well as discussing additional storage to meet the multifamily residential standards, as well as screening requirements on the site. So the project being proposed is the addition of 1 new 6-unit building. This would include 5 1-bedroom units and then 1 2-bedroom units. This would bring the project up to 25 units total. The project also includes the renovation of an existing community room, which would add additional community space, as well as some upgraded accessibility, particularly in the parking lot. And then the new building is going in place of the existing play area, so that will also be relocated. So to talk a little bit about the density, the project is 100% affordable, so they could potentially get a density bonus. However, the municipal code allows for a maximum density of 28 units on this property. So the 25 units that they're proposing fits within the Atascadero Municipal Code standards. Multifamily projects over 12 units do require a conditional use permit. This project was built prior to conditional use permit requirements, so this is technically their first one, but this will bring it into compliance with the conditional use permit standards. So as I mentioned before, the existing units on site are not income restricted. However, they are 100% affordable per the state's regulations. Rental projects that are 100% affordable for very low and low income households can request up to 4 concessions or requests for exceptions to the municipal code standards. So in order to grant them their concessions that they're requesting, which we'll discuss in a little bit, we've added a condition that all the units on site will require a 55-year deed restriction. It's all units except for a manager's unit would be deed restricted to affordable. So it's actually 24 units would be deed restricted on the site. And this would actually add to the city's low income housing stock and add toward our RHNA numbers. So you can see this is the existing site plan. You can see the location of the residential buildings a little bit better, and then the existing community building at the bottom there, as well as the location of that play area that's going to need to be relocated for the new building to be built, which you can see here. That new building is located in the back of the property, and then the new play area will be shifted over to make room for that while still being in the back of the property there. The community building will be expanded a little bit, as well as some outdoor barbecuing facilities for the residents to use. Those will also be added. And then we'll talk about parking a little bit more, but you can see just quickly that there are some new parking spaces added throughout the parking lot. So we talked about the concessions and why this project qualifies for those. The applicant can have up to 4 concessions, but they're only requesting 2. The first one is a waiver of development standards related to indoor storage, which we will discuss, as well as the development standards related to landscaping required for the parking lot. So we'll move on to the architecture and design of the project. The new building and community room expansion are going to be consistent with the existing architectural style and materials of what's there right now. The existing buildings are actually also going to be getting a makeover, and they'll all be painted an earth-toned palette of exterior colors with asphalt shingle roofing. They'll have smooth stucco, vinyl windows, and horizontal siding. So here you can see the color and materials board. The top building there is the proposed community building. So you can see it has that darker siding. And then we'll show more angles, and that does have a combination of stucco and siding. And then the new building will also be in those earth tone colors and have that combination of stucco and siding. So all of the buildings on site will be renovated, and they'll all be within this color palette with these materials. So again, here's the community building with the combination of the colors and materials. It's a little over 14.5 feet tall. And here's the new residential building. It's a little under 25.5 feet tall, and it has those same color and materials as the community building. And here's just a couple other angles of it. So to discuss the parking on site, the existing parking lot only has 25 parking spaces. The concerns about parking were a bigger discussion at the design review committee. So the design review committee requested that at least 32 parking spaces were to be on site total. So looking at this table shows different parking requirements based on different standards. So the third column over there is the Atascadero Municipal Code standards. Our code would require 53 parking spaces for this project. With the state density bonus ratio, they do have incentives for especially 100% affordable housing. They have their own parking ratios. So based on the state's parking ratios, only 31 parking spaces are required. So by providing 32 parking spaces that the applicant's proposing, they are meeting the state's requirement. So this is what the parking lot is proposed to look like. As you can see, a couple of the new spaces were added by adding tandem parking spaces in front of building 1 there, as well as a new parking space in the front, 3 new parking spaces and a new landscape planter along the bottom there, and then converting a couple of the spaces in front of the community building to be accessible spaces. Moving on to landscaping, approximately 41% of the site will be landscaped, which is well above the minimum 25% that's required for multifamily based on the municipal code standards. One of the concessions that they're requesting is exceptions to parking lot landscaping. And so the first one of these is that a minimum of 10% of parking areas need to be landscaped, as well as shade trees are to be provided. They do have we can take a look at the landscape plan, but they do have a few trees kind of along the parking lot, but they don't meet these standards. So that is one of the concessions that they'll be requesting. And based on the existing conditions and that the site is built out and already limited on parking, staff, we're not proposing any we're not recommending any changes to the proposed landscape plan for the parking lot. And so here we can see the landscape plan. They are adding new vegetation as well as freshening up what's there, adding ground cover. There is a lot of barren ground at this time, and planting native ground or native shrubs and grasses, some trees like Chinese pistache and some crepe myrtles. So moving on to fencing, there are various 6-foot tall fencing types surrounding the site, but the one in particular to discuss is there is a new fence, or I'm sorry, there is an existing fence in front of building 1 that's 6 feet tall, which provides privacy for the residents. So staff doesn't necessarily want to make this shorter because it's being used by the residents, but we are recommending that a wooden header be added and that additional landscaping be added to the landscape plan in front of this fence to soften its appearance from El Camino. And here's that fence right there. Part or all of this fence will actually have to be moved and rebuilt because where those red cars are approximately in that location are where they're going to be adding the 2 new tandem spaces. So there will be some new spaces, so that fence will have to move a little bit, but just to make it look a little nicer, we want to put a header on top and then again, some landscaping along the front to screen it a little bit better. Next, just want to bring up the trash enclosure. It is, you know, a CMU block trash enclosure with a chain link fence with slats that's looking a little bit older. So one of the conditions that staff has added is that the chain link gate be replaced with an opaque gate to make it look a little more modern and a little bit nicer. And then the cinder blocks be repainted to match the colors, the new colors of the buildings that are going to be painted. So moving on to multifamily standards, the municipal code requires 100 cubic feet of enclosed storage per unit, as well as for this project in particular, about 7,500 square feet of open space. So the applicant is not meeting the requirement for storage per unit. So that is one of the concessions that they're going to be requesting. That's something that was discussed at the design review committee. And then after looking at the project and trying to figure out how to make it work, the applicant wasn't able to add the storage on the site while keeping the number and the size of the units that are proposed. They are adding a significant amount of outdoor space and the landscaping, as well as the space around the community building. So they will be meeting that outdoor open space requirement. So this is just a note, the additional storage would likely result in a loss of units. So here's just some of those elevations that we saw previously. This is the community building and then the new residential building. And here are some floor plans. We can talk a little bit more about these if the commission has any questions. The second floor. And here are just some photos from the site. So as you can see that the buildings are a little bit of a different color and style right now. So those will be changed when the new building is built and they'll all match. And then you can see that the bottom picture there is the area that the new building will be built. So we can go over the conditions of approval. They are in your staff report, but most of them were discussed in the presentation. But if anyone has any questions, we can go over those. The project qualifies for a Class 32 categorical exemption for construction of an infill development. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution approving the amendments to add 6 new units to an existing 19-unit apartment development, subject to the conditions of approval. As always, the alternatives for the commission are they may approve modifications to the project. The commission can determine that more information is needed and refer the item back to staff, or the commission may deny the permit. And staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see Tori here too. Any of the members of the commission have questions of staff?
I do.
Dennis, go ahead.
Mariah, when was this item heard at the design review committee?
This went to the design review committee, I think it was February 11th of this year.
And so that is where I heard this presentation before then, was at that?
That would be the only other hearing this went to.
Yeah, okay. And at that meeting, there was, I think, concerns about parking, about there being enough parking. And, you know, because typically what happens with housing, more cars are associated with housing than what the code normally allows for. And so I thought we expressed some concern about that and then spill over into the street on parking. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that was brought up by the design review committee. The design review committee wanted to see no fewer than 32 parking spaces. So the applicant did go up to that 32 number, but in looking at the state's numbers, the city can't really require any more than even 31. So they're actually 1 unit over what the state requires. I mean, I'm sorry, 1 parking space over.
And then, thank you. And then one of the conditions refers to a stormwater control plan. Has there been any discussion with the applicant about how they're going to achieve stormwater control management?
I believe so. They can probably clarify that, but in talking to one of our engineers the other day, I believe she mentioned that they had already submitted a preliminary grading and drainage plan. So that might have already been fulfilled, and they'll just need to provide that stormwater control plan with the building permit. That's just a third requirement.
I mean, as far as adding more impervious area to the project, and they're able to offset that increase in the plans that they provided?
Yes, I believe that's been taken care of. That's just a standard, and I'm pretty sure our Public Works, Lori Azim, already looked at a preliminary plan, but I think that the applicant could probably confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, if not, we're gonna open it up to the public. If there's anybody would like to, actually, why don't we open it? Yeah, we're gonna open up to the public hearing, and we're gonna invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to make their presentation if they have one.
Good evening. My name's Scott Smith. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to open up real quickly our presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over to our technical team, RS Architects and Adriana. But my name's Scott Smith. I'm the executive director at Haslow, and I thought I would give you just a little background, additional background on this property, if you weren't aware. I guess sort of some of the folklore when I came to Haslow about 10 years ago, I was kind of asking about, well, what's this property that Haslow owns? It's just really different than anything else that we own. And And part of it, I was looking at, I said, we really need to upgrade some things. We need to do this, we need to do that. Well, I got the stories that apparently this used to be an affordable housing development originally when it was constructed. And there were a number of those like this around the county, and more than one in Atascadero. But the deed restrictions that were on there were expiring. It was privately owned. It was an affordable development that was privately owned. And the restrictions were all expiring. So Haslo at the time made the decision that they should do something. And so they went out and got a bank loan and they purchased the property. And that's why you have a situation today where we're trying to keep the rents below market because that's our mission, but there's no deed restriction. At the same time, it's really challenging for us because when it was affordable under the deed restriction, that private owner was getting subsidies, monthly subsidies to keep them affordable. And we don't have any of that right now. So we're really excited about this opportunity because what this is going to do for us and for the city, I'm hoping the city's excited about it because it's going to open the door for us to access what they call the low-income housing tax credit program. We're going to be able to do all these wonderful improvements that Mariah was mentioning. We're going to new stucco, color coding, new siding, new roof, handicap accessibility improvements across the board, all of that kind of stuff, and plus adding 6 additional affordable units. And there's a huge need, obviously, for that. So, and we can't do that really without adding these units. That's sort of the conundrum. We want to add them anyway because there's this need. All of our lists have long waiting lists to get into any of our housing, but the low-income housing tax credit program really is not interested in funding just the renovation of an existing property. They really want new units added. So this is going to allow us to be more competitive under their program, and that's what's going to pay for all of these renovations. So it's sort of a double pronged strategy where we are able to increase the housing, plus we're able to raise all this money for these renovations. It's also going to allow us to have less debt on the property, which is going to make it more affordable for us to operate. We'll be able to have a good full service resident manager there and those kinds of things. So that's just a little bit of background for you. We're excited about it. It's going to help with the RHNA numbers. It's going to really beautify the block. And we think it's a good project, and we hope that you can support it tonight. With that, I believe that Adriana is out there somewhere with RS Studio Architects, is out there in Zoom land somewhere. So hopefully I can bat it over to her and she can address some of the technical aspects of all of this. Thank you.
Yeah, I am Adriana from ARIS, and I did have a presentation. I don't know if I can share my screen or not.
Yeah, let me get you to a place where you can. Did that work?
Okay, I think I can. And to answer, I think the stormwater control question, we did prepare a stormwater control plan with our submittal. So, and thank you, Mariah. I think you covered all the major points, but I'll just kind of give a brief summary, and then I'll be available to answer any questions. Again, here's our property off of El Camino. These will be 100% affordable for rent apartments, owned and professionally managed by the Housing Authority of San Luis Obispo. Located on El Camino, close to transportation and amenities. We're adding 1 building, 6 units, for a total of 5 apartment buildings and 25 apartment units. This will, like Scott mentioned, allow for cosmetic upgrades, exterior and interior, to the existing buildings, including those accessibility upgrades. Per state density bonus law, the city is required to provide 4 incentives or concessions And we are requesting the following concessions. Like Mariah mentioned, the reduced indoor storage wasn't feasible for us. We tried a few times. And then the reduced parking lot landscaping. As you know, the parking was tight, and so we kind of had to do one or the other there. So this is the existing site. Our added building is where the old play structure was. Obviously, we meet rear and side setbacks there, and we've relocated that play area in the teal portion. We've also added the outdoor barbecue area and remodeled the community, or proposing to remodel the community building so that it can get more use out of tenants. We're also adding the hatched parking stalls. And this here is altered to make accessible stalls. There are no accessible stalls currently. We were able to squeeze in one landscape planter in the parking lot, but that was about it. And we are proposing to revise the trash enclosure altogether to make that also accessible for tenants. All right, I already went over these. And that is our project, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Adriana. Do we have any questions from the commission of the applicant? I have one, Adriana. You said that the trash enclosure was going to be completely redesigned to provide ADA accessibility. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I assume that that will just be color matched to the new stucco.
Yes. And I think the goal by adding this building is to tie all the buildings and the community and the trash enclosure together.
Super. Okay. Anybody else have any questions of the applicant? Okay, if not, we will open it up to the public. If anybody from the public would like to make any comments, if you would please raise your hand if you are on Zoom. And if you are on the phone, if you can press *9, that will raise your hand. All right, can you allow them in? Right, you're muted. I don't know if you're.
Oops. Okay. I was trying to figure out a few things. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start with Randy Kenny. Okay. Are you there, Randy? Oh, there you are.
Randy, do you have a comment?
Randy, I'm not sure you're on a computer or device that has a microphone. I see a little microphone next to your name. It might be better to actually call in if you don't have a microphone on your computer. Are you seeing any option to unmute yourself?
Let's move to the 4025 number.
Okay.
Maybe Randy can call in.
We're just out of practice for virtual meetings right now tonight. We're having all kinds of trouble. Hang in there.
Let's move on to the person with the 4025 number.
If you could do *6, that will unmute you. There you go.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. This is Sandra Giuliano. I live in Macadero Garden Apartments, unit number 4. I am a disabled senior, and I've been blessed with Section 8 housing And I've lived in this complex in 3 different apartments for 21 years. So I am very disabled at this point. I'm homebound. I'm concerned about when you go to do the renovations and the additional housing, and redo the parking lot and all of that. I can't afford to pay my rent and go to a motel or a hotel. I can't actually pack up my own personal things and put it in storage. My understanding is that it's going to take up to 3 weeks, possibly. Could you elaborate on how you're going to assist us?
What we're going to do is we'll take comments and then we'll respond to them later. So do you have any other comments?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there anybody else in the online or on the phone that would like to make a comment? Please raise your hand. While we're waiting, why don't we go to Scott, can you answer that question regarding how the phasing of that project and how it's going to impact people that are living there?
Yes. I would need to talk to our construction staff about the need for people to actually vacate their units during the work, but we are just finishing up renovating 14 different properties, 175 units, 14 different locations, and very similar scope of work. So, and what we did was we hired packing services, moving services, and we paid for. We paid for everything. We paid for the motel rooms. We paid for the packing. We paid for any storage that was necessary. And so on, and then we had to move back in when it was all finished. And generally, that works much better to have people to have it vacant when we're trying to renovate. So I would, given the scope of this, they probably would need to be out for some period of time, and they'd probably prefer to be out, and that would, but it would not be at their cost. That's for sure.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anybody else that would like to comment? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we will go ahead and close the public comment. Is there any other commissioner comments on this? And if not, somebody would like to make a motion?
Jeff, I do have one letter I would like to read into the record, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay. This is from Atascadero Mutual Water Company. And it says, Atascadero Mutual Water Company is aware that the subject project will be reviewed by the City Planning Commission on September 7th. AMWC recommends that the property owner be required to obtain a will-serve letter from Atascadero Mutual Water Company before a building permit is issued for the project. AMWC will also require payment of connection fees for the new dwelling units being constructed. AMWC recommends that the city require these fees to be paid prior to final inspection of the residential building. Respectfully yours, John B. Neal, General Manager. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. So if anybody would like to comment or make a motion and maybe add those conditions to the project from.
I'll make the motion to accept the renovation and the additional building with the condition that the AWMC requests be met. AMWC, sorry.
I'll second.
Okay. Yeah, first and second. Smith?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson King,
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I also just want to put on the record, I had no ex parte on this matter.
Thank you, Tori.
Yeah. Okay. And we will go ahead and move into item number 3, which is a condominium subdivision at 6917 El Camino Real. And do we have any ex parte on this issue? I will start with Jason.
No ex parte.
Tori?
I did have a discussion with some constituents about this matter. They were asking for clarification, so I sort of explained the issue to them. Is that ex parte?
Not really.
Okay.
Andy?
No ex parte.
Okay. Dennis?
Yes, I'm going to say kind of in a roundabout way. I was looking at a Facebook page called I Grew Up in the Atascadero last week, and there was a comment or posting about this project on the Facebook page, and there was lots of discussion. It's actually a wonderful site. There's always good discussions from lots of constituents in our city. However, in this particular case, the discussion was great, but there was confusion about the type of condominium project it was. Many people thought it was residential condominiums, and they were voicing their opinion that cities shouldn't be converting commercial spaces to residential spaces. And then there was comments kind of associated with that with respect to water and traffic and so on. It was quite a lively discussion, although kind of misplaced mostly. I do think one person was trying to get everyone to understand that it's a commercial condominium project and not a residential project. That's all.
Thank you, Dennis. I saw the same one. So I saw some of the same thing, but other than that, no ex parte on my part. So we'll go ahead and have the presentation. Kelly, are you doing this one?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good, she's here. Ah, yes, I was gonna.
Here, my internet connection's a little unstable, so I've got 2 backup plans if you lose me. But this presentation should be pretty quick. It's a pretty straightforward project. So it is a commercial condominium subdivision at the Colony Square Theater building on El Camino Real. The zoning is downtown, downtown commercial. The general plan is downtown. I think we're all familiar with where the theater is. So basically the condominium map will make airspace condominium units of the existing commercial tenant spaces. It will allow for the individual sale, but that's not really what the owner is after at this point. Having individual units will also open up some opportunities for some additional financing methods and sources that can bring some extra cash to that building and that owner. I think COVID has hit, the theater buildings and some of those restaurant spaces kind of hard. And so this is kind of a way to breathe some, financial life into the building as we get through our COVID times. So the existing building currently has 9 tenant spaces, and the condominium map would make an airspace unit out of each of those 9 spaces. The underlying parcel would remain unsubdivided and would remain part of the overall Colony Square development. All of the common areas will be maintained by an association or some other mechanism, and it would be layered over the existing Colony Square mechanisms and maintenance requirements, as well as they share access with the adjacent parcels. So the existing site does meet all applicable zoning code standards. They do have an approved master plan of development, and the site does not have any deficiencies in terms of that master plan consistency. So no updates to the site are currently required. This is just kind of a layout of the proposed airspace units. You can see the 9 tenant spaces, with the first space being the theater building and the largest of the proposed airspace units. So the project qualifies for Class 15 exemption under CEQA, as they're not really expanding any use or making any physical improvements to the site. There are a number of parcel map findings that are required to be made, and those are included in the resolution attached to your staff report. And so staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution attached to approve the airspace condominium map for commercial tenant spaces. Oh, it says 39, it's just supposed to say 9, that would be a lot. And just with one correction, which is also spelled wrong up there, to the applicant's mailing address on the resolution. As always, the commission has 3 alternatives. You can approve the project with amended or additional conditions. You can continue the hearing if more information is needed, or you can deny the project if you feel the findings cannot be made. So that concludes staff's presentation. I believe the applicant is also online with us tonight and can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions from the commissioners or staff?
Yes, please.
Okay, Dennis?
In terms of the homeowners association document, for lack of better words, are there going to be designated parking spots for each condo within the overall parking lot around the theater?
Yeah, the theater and the entire Colony Square complex does have a shared parking for all of the tenant spaces. And so we would not be permitting designated parking spaces for particular tenant spaces.
So for instance, if I'm not knowing the well, I'm seeing the configuration here. So something like no parking, restricted parking for tenants or
No.
immediately across from the building.
No, this center relies on shared parking. So as soon as you start divvying up parking spaces to any business, then you end up with a deficit. It relies on shared parking because of the different hours of operation for various businesses. So that's something that's not going to happen with this commercial condo map, which really all it's going to allow is for those inside areas of those tenant spaces to be separately sold with nothing else changing on the site.
And I believe that the way Colony Square works is that some of the parking and access ways are actually a separate parcel. And so there are already a lot of controls over those parking and access ways that are managed by the entire Colony Square development and association for maintenance that sits on top of those parcels.
Yes, there's already 2 other owners involved with Colony Square with other parcels, so.
With respect to utilities, will there be individual utilities placed, or do they exist for each of these units, or are they going to be paying let's say a estimated fee each month that water is going to cost this much, electricity is this much, sewer, so on?
Yeah, so in terms of water, I believe that they currently just have one connection. They would be able to install sub-meters if that's something that they wanted to do, or because the underlying parcel is not being subdivided, there is an owner to that parcel and will be an association. So if they choose to just have the one water meter, the water cost would be billed to the association, and then the association would be in charge of getting that cost from each tenant space. In terms of wastewater, we charge based on equivalent dwelling units based on the type of business that's in there. And so we would be able to bill just based on that EDU calculation for each tenant space as an individual charge without changing any of the on-site utility configurations.
Similar to the previous project, did the Atascadero Mutual Water Company comment about connection fees?
They didn't comment. We did have a meeting with John Neal from the water company, and he did not have any concerns about the project as proposed. All of the uses are what exists there today, so they're not really changing anything physical. They're just changing the structure for financing and potential sale if they wanted to do that in the future. So they're already being charged currently for their usage, and that would continue to happen, whether they're charged to the individual businesses separately or whether they're charged to the association.
So if sale does occur sometime in the future, then that doesn't change any of that fact pattern then?
Correct.
About utilities. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Okay, if not, we will open up the public hearing and invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to speak to us if they'd like to.
Okay, it looks like we have Jeff Nelson.
Hello.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As staff said, COVID hit this property real bad. The theater got closed down by a government order in March. Galaxy Theater has paid almost no rent since then. As fate would have it, their 5-year lease, which would have renewed normally, came up for this April. And we've been going month to month, and we've got a extension through the end of the year with Galaxy Theater at a lesser rent. Regrettably, our lender has been the most aggressive lender in the Central Coast, trying to capture this property through foreclosure. It was the only foreclosure of a commercial property in the Central Coast for a long time. We've had several battles to try to stave them off. There was the day, as fates would have it also, California was opening June 15, and they had a foreclosure sale scheduled that day, which was going to be perfect timing for them. They get the property at the same moment that California opens up, and the theater can have 100% occupancy. So we were forced to file a Chapter 11 reorganization the day before on June 14. And we've been talking to the city and various other parties for a long time about what are long-term solutions. And one of them is to have more tools in your tool bag as far as refinancing the property with a more local lender. And that would include having one loan on the theater and another loan on the other spaces, or actually even other individual loans. So this is basically a tool in the toolkit to help with refinancing eventually, if that comes to pass. And maybe that comes to pass, maybe it doesn't, but it's valuable to have this as an option, because the city may be interested in looking at the theater differently in terms of supporting it than the other shops. So as to the other spaces, the donut shop has done pretty well. They've hung in there from the beginning. K-Pasa struggled a little, but is back doing pretty well now. Galaxy Theater has been open for a while and doing pretty well, all things considered, and really is poised to see how the studios will roll out good films. So there was one scheduled for November 19 that's been put back to spring. So there's many different moving parts in this whole equation. It's the studios, it's the theaters, it's our lease, it's our lender. But this is definitely something that is a valuable asset for us to have more flexibility going forward. It's not instant, because the surveyors have to take the next action to do what's necessary to do the final map. And indeed, there will be CC&Rs, much like you would have in another condo, as between these properties as to who has responsibilities for what, and et cetera. And that's natural and normal. But so this won't be instant, but it's a positive step in the right direction. So anyway, one more tenant I didn't mention is Yogurt Creations is going to go into the former ice cream or yogurt shop, and had a lease for a while, but hasn't gotten their tenant improvements in. So anyway, one by one, we're trying to rebuild it, and it's a fine building. It can be a cornerstone of downtown. It's a great leverage point for other restaurants too. other eateries. So anyway, we're proud to have it, and we have been spending all day, every day fighting to defend keeping this property and making it work.
Thank you, Jeff. Any commissioners'
Thank you.
questions for Jeff? Okay, we are going to now then open it up to the public if they would like to make any comments or have any comments. They can go ahead and raise their hand on Zoom, or if they on the phone, they could type *9, and we'll look for anybody that would like to make any comments about this. Okay, doesn't look like there are any comments, so we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Would anybody like to make a motion on this?
I would, please.
Okay.
And I'm also very happy to see that the yogurt shop is moving over there. A lot of people are missing it in the other location, and so it'll be wonderful to have all that traffic come to this location. So congratulations for pulling that off. Good news. Anyhow, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission of the City of Atascadero approve SBDV 21-0065, tentative parcel map AT 21-0017, establishing 9 airspace units on 1 common lot at 6917 El Camino Real.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Can we include to the motion just the correction to the applicant's mailing address as a technicality on that resolution?
Yeah. The motion will include the changing of the, making the correction to change the address.
Okay. Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Keen,
Yes.
Chairperson Van den Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and good luck with that. I've been doing my best to support the theater. I've gone every single week this summer. I even went yesterday. Wow. I even went yesterday, and I'm going tomorrow to watch Lord of the Rings. So, all right. That concludes the public hearing items. Are there any commissioner reports or comments that need to be made? Maybe we can make a comment.
Yes.
That Victoria has had her baby. And she's, I don't know if everybody saw that.
Congratulations.
She's doing well.
Yes. I'd like to make a comment, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
And the comment is, I truly apologize for missing last meeting that the commission had. My mind was in a blur that day, and I just completely forgot about it. So I apologize for that missing of the meeting.
That's totally fine. Thank you, Dennis. Any other comments from commissioners?
I have some questions for Phil.
Okay.
Yes.
From
Yes,
the
Tori.
constituents. I was sent with a list, Phil.
Oh my, the list.
So the first question is, what's up with the Del Rio property? We thought that they were going to be moving quickly with the dry camping, but they've seen no action.
Moving quickly is about a year.
Oh,
Moving
okay.
slowly would be several. So
So
there's
it's all relative.
a lot of things that have to be mobilized in order to move quickly. So first of all, they need to close escrow on the property. That's a process when you're working with a major corporation. Then they need to come in with plans for what they're going to do on a temporary basis, which they haven't done yet. And then, yeah, we'll bring those plans back to the commission as well. So there's a few steps yet there to make. And so it's going to take a little bit.
Okay, so we'll see it again. So I'll let them know
You
to
will-
stay tuned
yeah,
to the planning
you'll-
commission.
you'll see it again. And we'll be doing a lot of other things at Del Rio as well. You'll be seeing at some point the Barrel Creek project, which is across the freeway. Clint Pierce is moving forward with some changes to his development plan for that part of the property as well. We'll be seeing some of that for a change in the master plan development, all very positive, good stuff. And then the development on the corner that's outside of the specific plan that has a Taco Bell and a fuel station and some more generic things is going to be moving forward with the development. So I think in the next year or two, that whole intersection is going to be lively and changing and kind of reforming into kind of what we have long visioned as being a key part of the Del Rio.
Is the tiny home hotel still going in?
It is still going in. Peter Laughlin is the owner of that property at the corner there on the other side of the freeway. And he's making good progress on his plans to build that. Kelly, do you have any idea when he might break ground with that particular project?
Sure. I think he's hoping to break ground shortly, by the end of this year, definitely. He already has his plans submitted and approved through the state agency. So he's just working out some final details with the city for his frontage improvements and making sure that the plans comply with his approved concept.
Very cool. And then the other question was, of course, about the Santa Barbara property.
So
Santa
yeah,
Barbara El Camino.
that's still moving forward. They're still
Okay.
working on that. I think that development group has a lot of irons in the fire.
They
That's a
do.
pretty big iron over there. And we are still waiting for some revisions to come in to bring that back to you. So that will be
Okay.
happening as well. So all
So
those things
again,
are still
stay
active.
tuned.
Yeah, nothing has died. It's all still active. A lot still happening on both ends of the community. So
Cool.
yeah,
Okay, that was it for me. Thank you.
awesome.
All right, Bill, why don't you give us a director's report?
So we do have a normal hearing date of September 21 coming up. We're trying to figure out, or have we already figured out that we're not going to have that hearing? We did have a minor subdivision plan for that date, which comes along with a precise plan, which is an environmental document, but it looks like our precise plan may not be ready in time because of a little notification hitch. So we'll see, but I don't think that's going to happen. So as of this point, I don't know that we have any items for the 21st ready yet, but not to say we aren't having a lot of things going on, because we have a lot of things happening, including kind of commencing our general plan update. You'll be hearing some more about that, and pretty soon we'll be scheduling a session with the Planning Commission and City Council to discuss that huge topic as we get a consultant on board. And then we've got a lot of other different projects going on, such as our objective design standards, our accessory dwelling unit policies that we'll be modifying, and our affordable housing standards. All of these policy amendments are going to be working their way through the Planning Commission and City Council over the next few months. So we've been really busy, and we're also in the process of hiring a new planner for our team as well. And so we're working on that in John Holder's absence. He retired and moved on. So that's another big thing that is happening. So eventually you'll see a new face amongst our team coming your way.
I didn't know John was old enough to retire.
Yeah, I love to use that term. Sometimes you just get really rich and you decide to move on. No, neither one of those things. He actually is, his wife was going to go off to school at Berkeley, and he's up there now with her. So
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We will go ahead and adjourn our meeting, and we'll look forward to our next one. Doesn't look like it'll be on the 21st, but we'll.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
All right, stay tuned. We'll be back at you soon.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have
everybody.
a great evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Great night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Bye.